I think Johnson is having challenges. You are muted, Johnson. If not, then we can start with Elsie Ama Mensah. Elsie, please go ahead.
Good morning, Doc.
Good morning, my lady. Let's hear you.
Yes, I read that deductive arguments are arguments that are true already if the premises are true.
You. Very good. That's a good attempt. Yeah, argument whose premises, if true, will make the conclusion also true necessarily. Very good.
Thank you.
I do not need to add anything to that if police have done their reading. Thank you very much. Those who are asking, the group 10 people who are asking, your assignment was due yesterday, 25th at 11:55 p.m., the discussion. So it has expired if you are in group 10 and you are asking. But group 11, you still have close of day to day to do that. Let me take Emmanuel Owusu Amponsa. Please go ahead, sir.
Good Doc, please, good morning. I hope you're fine.
I'm doing fine, sir. Thank you so much.
We thank God. Doc, yesterday when I was going through the slides, I came to realize that this talks about like opening our ability to how we analyze statements, and thereby talking about deductive and inductive arguments. And also it went down to help us to know how sentences are being generalized, either statistical generalization or universal generalization. And also I learned something about them. Modus ponens, modus tollens, the deductive syllogism and hypothetical syllogism.
Very good. Well done. At least you know that these names exist. More. I'll take two more. So let us get Priscilla Kwashi. Priscilla, go ahead, please.
Good morning.
Good morning, my lady.
Please, I want to add that I know an argument is presents a simple conclusion from a given evidence that has been provided.
Very good. That is fine. That helps us a lot to revise what we had seen earlier. Good. Thank you. So whenever we have an argument, then it means we are making a claim and we are supporting that claim with evidence. Madam says we have a conclusion and evidence or premises that we are offering to support that conclusion. The two together is what we call an argument. So every argument has two parts, a conclusion supported by what premises. The conclusion will always be one. Thank you. Let me take the last one now. Francisca Kwabiga. Go ahead, Francisca. Francisca, go ahead. You are muted, please. Everyone is muted, so kindly unmute before you speak.
Hey.
Go ahead. Okay, if Francisca is not ready, let me take William Boache. It's only fair that we give someone else the opportunity. William, go ahead. William Boache, please go ahead. Your hand is up. Matilda Opokua Jemfi, please go ahead.
There are two types, and we have the deductive argument and inductive argument. And with the deductive argument, the premises will be true, and with both the premises and the conclusion are true. But with the inductive argument, the conclusion may not necessarily be true, but even if the premises is true.
Very good. The second part of your response is
Please, I'm
perfect.
done.
The second part of your response is perfect. The first part, though, has to be corrected. So I will help you see the correction when we go through the slides. The deduction is not making any claims of actual truth out there. It's not saying that both the premises and the conclusion are true. No. It's rather saying that for a deduction, so we start. Look on my slides now, please, if you're able to. Okay, the outline is there. I don't think we should spend too much time on that. So let's go straight to the content proper to help you. Note that the unit 6 already will need 2 weeks at least per our estimation. We'll need 2 weeks to deliver that content because it's heavy. And I told you last week, that is the critical thinking proper. Unit 6 and 7 is the subject matter of critical thinking. The earlier units just gave you the language of what critical thinking. You were just studying language, interrogative, imperative, the raw material, so to speak. But from unit 6, 7 onwards, we are discussing the subject matter, reasoning, argumentation proper. That is what we are doing. So you have to take this unit seriously. That's why you will see it appear prominently in your mid-sem test, 30%, and also in your final exam, prominently, 50%. These 2 units, 6 and 7, are prominent there. All the other units are there for the specific times that we have already communicated to you on. But for units 6 and 7, if you don't know it, you are not doing reasoning. For you to understand unit 10 and fallacies and what have you, you should have known the correct way of reasoning. You see, whether deductively or inductive. Then you can tell if someone is reasoning wrongly for you to call it a fallacy. You would know when you know unit 6. Therefore, I don't want you to play around with the units or to take it for granted. Okay, so we'll go step by step. It's quite technical, but it's not insurmountable. You will also do well, like others have done. Let's start. So if you look on the screen now, I'm projecting a very important distinction that pertains between 2 ways of arguing. Because you know what an argument is, it helps us to build on that. When we say we have an argument, it is not a narration. It's not an instruction. A narration tells you how something was done. It just tells you the sequence of events as they happened. Then an instruction tells you how to get something done or how to get to a place. It tells you how to do it. Okay, a rhetorical polemic. We learned all this in unit 3 and even in our mop-up as well. Rhetorical polemic or polemical rhetoric captures strong emotions into a passage. So it is like emotive expression, but this time not one expression like that, but a collection of it. So in a passage form. Now, if you put the 3 together, they are all passages, but argument, which is the 4th one, is distinct. An argument has a different nature, and that is what is interesting to the critical mind. That is what the critical thinker uses. That is where the critical thinker's work starts. An assessment and evaluation and examination of what? Argument. So what's an argument? We said, and Madame reminded us beautifully this morning, when there is a claim made and reasons offered to support that claim, then we have an argument. Sometimes the argument reasoning pattern may be deductively done or inductively done. On your screen now, please. Okay. So when do we say an argument or a reasoning is deductive? When you look at the argument and the evidence offered, evidence here meaning what? The premises, the reasons. When the evidence offered is such that if you accepted the evidence as true, you would necessarily have to also accept the conclusion as true because of the nature of the relationship between the two. Then we say you only deduced the conclusion from the premises. You didn't induce it. You took the conclusion from the premises. Why? Because the premises given for that argument, that is, if it is a valid deduction, it simply means that conclusion was already part of what? The premises offered. So the truth of the premises would also mean the truth of the conclusion. If the premises were true, it doesn't mean it is actually true out there. But we said that if we were to grant, if we were to assume that the premises were true, it would necessarily mean that the conclusion would also be true. That kind of argument is the one we describe as what? A deduction. let's go to some examples quickly, and we'll come back to induction. So look at the screen now. On the screen, two types of argument. This time I put examples to help you. All students write exams. Amma is a student, so she writes exams. Now, the issue is, which one is the conclusion? All of you mute and respond and let me know whether you know the conclusion. Which of the statements?
She writes exams.
Very good.
So she writes exams.
Very good. Thank you.
So
You
she
can
writes
follow me.
exams.
It's fine. It's fine. Now I'll mute all. No problem. Thank you very much. Sometimes
So
I
she
like the
writes
correct
exams.
answers. I have muted you all. Okay, we can continue. The point I'm making is this. If I ask you for the conclusion, you don't add the so, because the so is only a pointer. It's an indicator. The real conclusion is she writes exam. The so only points to the conclusion to help us where there is an argument. We could have an argument. We could have a passage that has so inside, but it doesn't, that passage wasn't arguing after all. Okay, we have revised that. It could have been just what a narrative. I tell you how something happened. But where there is an argument, the indicator word so, hence, thus, therefore, etc., help us know the conclusion. We have done all that already. Now we know this conclusion. We are trying to understand an argument that is labeled deduction and how we'll distinguish that from the one that is labeled induction. That's what we are doing, step by step. Then from there, we'll move to the types of deductive argument and so on and so forth. So here we are. We see that this conclusion, she writes exams, has a certain relationship with the two premises up there. All students write exams. Amma is a student. These are premises, evidence, reasons offered to support this claim that she writes exams. Now the question to ask, if you want to know whether this argument is deductive or inductive, is this. Ask yourself, if I pretended that or assumed that the premises were true, if I took it to be true. So it's a conditional statement. I'm taking it to be true. May Fano say, Min kola ake. You see, premises say anukwalini. May Fano say premises ni anukwara. Me fandenka premises ni na anukwara. If I were to take it to be true, that's the nature of a deductive argument. Okay. If I were to take it to be true that all students write exams, because not all students write exams. Some don't write exams. Some may just do. Look, if you unmute your mic again, I'll take you off my class, dear friends. And I mean it. I have muted all so that people's concentration will be clear. Why are you unmuting? If you don't know what you are doing on the screen, because maybe you are still learning how to manage yourself online, which is okay, then don't touch the screen when delivery is ongoing, please, okay? But it can be very obstructive. I'm trying to teach people, deduction. And we are trying our best, so don't obstruct. Thank you very much. I'm saying that if we were to take it to be true that all students write exams, and then we also take it to be true that Amma is a student. Why? Because they are premises, the two of them are premises. If we took these to be true, would it also mean, there comes the question, necessarily that this conclusion, she writes exams, is also true? In this instance, yes. Because if all students write exams and Amma is also a student, see what we are doing. We didn't say Amma writes exams. We said Amma is also a student. Then what is true of all students will also be true of Amma. That is why then we can conclude she writes exams deductively, and it is a valid deduction, meaning that wherever these premises go, it would already have gone with the conclusion, like a human being and his or her shadow. That's the nature of this. Like a pregnant woman with a baby inside her tummy. Wherever the mommy goes, the conclusion, which is the baby inside, goes with her. That's the nature of a deductive argument. So in technical language now, back to the top, we'll say if an argument is deductive, then it means if the premises of that argument were true. I'm saying that if an argument is a valid deduction, let me stress that, because we can have a deduction that is invalidly done, incorrectly done. That is where we have the fallacies that you will meet. Fallacy of affirming the consequent, fallacy of denying the antecedent, false hypothetical syllogism. They are all deductive fallacies, formal fallacies. They are trying to do the correct form, but they do it wrongly. Okay, so it is on your slides. Learn them. Then I can only help you understand the connection. Then you bring questions. That's how you do this. Okay. So back to deduction. If the premises are true, then the conclusion would also be necessarily true, where we have what? A valid deduction. As for inductive argument, it is simply inductive. We call it inductive, induced, because the conclusion may not necessarily be true, even where we claim that the premises are true. If we were to assume the premises to be true, it still wouldn't mean that the conclusion must, emphasis must also be true. Okay, that's how you do the distinction. Any other way of distinguishing the two is not valid. So you see in your slide somewhere along the line, we show you that sometimes the distinction is done wrongly. Look at it. Let me take you there quickly and we'll come back. We'll learn that way so that you get all the aspects of the issue. So sometimes people have distinguished the two by saying that one moves from general to particular and another moves from particular to general premises. And we say that is so wrong, a way to distinguish one from the other. Where is it? Okay, I think that I've moved too much ahead. I'll find it ahead. Now, so look at the example that we worked with earlier. One was deductive, the other inductive. Where is it? Here we are. Okay. One of you should read the second example and let us interrogate it together. So I'll take Abdulrazak Isaka. Abdulrazak, we are waiting. Go ahead.
Two types of arguments, deductive. All students write exams. Amma is a student, so she writes exams. Inductive. Most Ghanaians are hospitable. My mother is a Ghanaian, therefore she's hospitable.
Thank you very much, sir. Now, the point is this. Whereas in the first example, if you accepted the two premises to be true, all students write exams and Amma is a student. Therefore, she too, like all students, will write exam. This is valid. It's a valid deduction. Look at what is happening in the second instance. If I said most Ghanaians are hospitable, and I add that my mother is a Ghanaian, does it necessarily mean she too will be hospitable? Yes or no? All of us, unmute and answer.
No.
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 No, please.
Big no.
No.
Very good. Everyone muted now. No. And the reason is simply because
No.
if my mother is even considered to be a Ghanaian, look at the premises offered. The evidence given is that most Ghanaians are. It doesn't mean all Ghanaians are. So even if my mother is a Ghanaian, it's assumed to be true alongside this premise, we cannot necessarily say that she is hospitable like all Ghanaians because we didn't say all Ghanaians are. That is why the reasoning pattern there in the second instance on your screen, number 2, is an induced reasoning. The conclusion is induced. Oh, false. When you induce vomiting, you're forcing vomiting out. Like maybe someone took poison or something like that. So you want the person to force herself and vomit to bring it out. Induced conclusion. That's why the reasoning is described as what? An induction. Of forcing the conclusion onto the premises. Like some sisters force themselves on some brothers. Remember that always when you are trying to remember my induction for me. Tell me that in your mind so that it can help you express induction. So for an inductive argument, what does our slide say? It says that the conclusion may not necessarily follow from the premises, even if we assume the premises were true. Okay, that is why that reasoning is inductive. If you got that, then you see why As for the first one, it is deductive. For the first one, look at it very well. Even if we assumed, I'm talking about deductive now up here, even if we assume that all students write exams, and because I said it may not necessarily be true out there by observation that all students write exams. But if we assume that this is true, and we assume that Amma is a student, because Amma may be a cook who doesn't go to school now, or maybe a whatever, you know. So we are not necessarily saying that it is true by observation out there that Amma is a student. We haven't said that. We are only saying that if we were to grant that Amma is a student, then it will mean that she will write exams. So it's a conditional hypothetical way of speaking. And so take note from what we've said so far that the fact that an argument is valid does not mean it is true. Write it down. Validity is not truth. It's boldly written in your textbook. It also means that when we are dealing with deductive arguments, we are discussing a topic neutral issue. Let me see if I've gone ahead of myself or is there. Yeah, that's it. It means deductive reasoning is neutral to the topic. That's why I can say all mangoes are human beings. My teacher is a mango. Dear friends, what valid conclusion can you draw from this? Chorus answer.
He's a human being.
So
My
he's a
teacher is
human being.
My teacher is a human being. You see how I started? All mangoes, yes, all mangoes are human beings. My teacher is a mango. It will validly follow, therefore, that my teacher is a human being. But we know that mangoes are not human beings, even in observation. We know that teachers are not mangoes, actually speaking. I'm talking about observation, factually, okay? But that is not the concern of deduct. I'll ask you questions on all this. In fact, I've put them down already. I'm just waiting for more to tweak them here and then, put them together. This is detail from your textbook. Every group will discuss this. So understand why, if you have deduced validly, if you say, oh, that's a valid point he has made, it is not talking about truth, whether it's actually true or false. It's just talking about the relationship between the conclusion drawn and the evidence provided. That's all. So if I said all chichis are chachas, and this thing is a chichi, it has to follow then that it is a chacha. Whatever chichi and chacha stands for is not our concern, because look at your screen now, because deduction is topic neutral. Any questions? I pause for a question. So I see 7 hands up. I suspect that they were a reaction to the earlier question I asked. If one of you is asking a question, go ahead, unmute and ask. We will bear with you. Else we continue. Quickly, please. There isn't much time. Okay, so it's not a question, then we can move on. Now, that means from our slide now, you understand that when we are arguing, there are 2 ways of arguing. There are 2 types of argument: deduction and induction. The deductive argument has a necessary connection between the premises and the conclusion. It is a necessary connection, which means the truth of the premises will require an accompanying truth of what? The conclusion. Whereas for induction, the premises could be assumed to be true. It will not mean necessarily that the conclusion must also be true. And that will not create a contradiction. If you did that with deduction, you will generate a contradiction where you are accepting the premises to be true, but you don't want the conclusion to be true alongside. Okay, so you got that. Now, on your screen now, slide 5 only gives you what? A revision of what arguments are, indicator words, what have you. And then we went to examples to help us understand deduction and induction even better. There is more example currently on the slide number 7. Look at it. I'm moving alongside. So see what happens here. Since the security man was the last person who left the building yesterday, we conclude that therefore He stole the project leader's laptop. Really? This is good reason. We may accept the reason to be true, but it doesn't demand of us necessarily to accept this conclusion. The conclusion is not a part of the premise. No. So even though the premises may be assumed to be true, it will not lead us necessarily to this conclusion drawn here. That's why this reasoning is induced inductive argument. How about the second one? Let me get Evans Addy to read for us. Evans, go ahead. Read what you see on the screen for example 4, which is labeled deductive. Oh dear, Evans, quick. Go ahead.
All mangoes are fruits.
Yes.
My pen is not a fruit, so it is not a mango.
Thank you very much. Well read. Now on your screen again, you see another pattern. You see that this pattern of deductive validity, which we have seen so far, is not the same as the one we've seen so far. The pattern, how we are deducing, is not the same, but we are calling this one also a deduction. Okay, so let's look at it. The earlier one we saw, which said all students write exam, then we said Amma is a student. That one, what did we do? After we said all students write exams, where is it? Quickly we go back. Oh dear. I can. We are looking for it so that we can use it to help your understanding. Yeah. So the one we see on our screen now. When we said all students write exams, the next premise said Amma is a student. The next premise affirmed the antecedent. This one, this part of the universal statement up here is called the antecedent. If I say all students write exams, I'm only saying that if you were a student, then you will write exam. All mangoes are fruit. I'm only saying if X is a mango, then X is a fruit. All teachers talk too much. I'm saying if X is a teacher, then X talks too much. The X represents any variable at all. Kofi, Kwame, Kojo, table, chair, whatever. Any variable, any particular object can belong to that set. Okay. So if I say mammals feed their young, I'm saying that if X is a mammal, then X will feed their young. If X is a mammal, then X will feed their young. Wrong time, I'm teaching. 11. I finished teaching at 11. If X is a mammal, then X will feed their young. Okay. Alternatively said, write it down. See, if X is a mammal, then X will feed their young. That is what I mean when I say all mammals feed their young. So I'm just showing you how to open out. Sit down. Sit and write it. I'm showing you how to open out a universal statement into what? A conditional, right? That's somewhere in your note. Every universal statement is actually what? A conditional statement. Universal is what we have seen there. Students write exam. Men are bullies. Women are cheats. Mangoes are fruit. All this have done that. Every time there's this. Whenever it's raised, the ground gets wet. They are all universal statements. Okay, they don't leave anybody out. You saw it in the slides. Now, any universal statement you see is actually a conditional statement in disguise. It is an if so and so, then so and so kind of statement. Okay, so if I say all mangoes are fruit, I'm only saying if X is a mango, then it is a fruit. Be careful not to shift positions for the two. When you say all mangoes are fruits, I have not said all fruits are mangoes. You have to understand that. Because that is how we have taught, most of us, I should say, the way we think. When you hear someone say all politicians are corrupt, for example, they think that you are saying all corrupt people are politicians. If you say all politicians are corrupt, there is space for lecturers to be corrupt in that same set of corruption. Okay, so all politicians are corrupt doesn't mean there isn't space inside the Venn diagram, that big rectangle, to accommodate all lecturers to being corrupt. So both lecturers and politicians and everything that is dear to you, and pastors and imams and whatever, can all be inside the big set of what corrupt. So you may have a circle a triangle, a rectangle, all of them inside what? A very big set. Those of you who are math inclined, I'm helping you recall your Venn diagram now. That's why there is one of them being the antecedent and the other is the consequent. When you have a universal statement, which is also what? A conditional statement, you should know that one side of it is an antecedent subset, while the other side is the consequent, the mother set, the main set, okay? If you got that, then you see why I'm saying that when I say all students write exams, it's another way of saying if X is a student, then X writes exams. The X is a student part becomes the antecedent, okay? Whilst the X writes exams is what? The consequent of this universal statement on the screen. If you got that, then tell me the antecedent of the statement, monkeys like banana. If you opened it into a universal statement, it will be if X is a monkey, then X likes bananas. Now tell me the antecedent of this universal statement that I have opened out to become what? A conditional. The conditional now is if X is a monkey, then X likes bananas. What is the antecedent? Chorus answer.
X is a monkey.
Monkeys like bananas.
X is a monkey.
X is a monkey.
X is the monkey.
Thank you very much. Everyone keep quiet now. I heard someone who said monkeys like banana. So I opened out the expression itself. The given expression was monkeys like banana. You see? Then I said, when you see such a universal statement, monkeys like banana is just another way to say all monkeys like banana. Just that the all was not expressed. Now, if you reopen that to read as a conditional, it will be if X is a monkey, then X likes banana. That is still a universal statement that has been expressed as what? A conditional, only to help you see your antecedent and the consequent. So if X is a monkey, then S likes banana. That is the conditional. What is its antecedent? X is a monkey. Finito. What is the consequent? X likes banana. Finito. So we go there quickly for you to see it. Let me take you to that slide. Another example quickly. To help you identify antecedent and consequent. Look on your screen now. All men are bullies. All men are bullies. Leave your contact. I'll get back to you. Men are bullies. If you want it to read as a conditional, I've projected something on your slides. You say if X is a man, then X is a bully. That will help you to clearly identify, this man, take it. It will help you clearly identify the antecedent and the consequent. So now that you know antecedent and consequent from a universal statement, tell me what the antecedent is for the statement, all men are bullies. See, I've done half of the work for you. I've opened it into a conditional for you. So now tell me, what is the antecedent of this statement? All of you.
S is a man.
X 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 is a man.
Very good. That's correct.
X is a man.
Very good. No.
X
So you know how to find antecedent. Very good. Okay, let's mute now. Now, what will be the antecedent for all women like money? What's the antecedent for all women like money?
X is a woman.
X is a woman.
Very
Very
a
good.
woman. X a woman.
I hope you are following.
Women.
I hope you are following.
Yes.
X is a woman.
You Matibaya. What about if I said what example comes to mind immediately? Give me the consequence of the following. Then we build on it. Give me the consequence of the expression. Every man likes peace. Asunje. Every man likes peace. Let's use the name Kofi for uniformity. So every man likes
Kofi likes peace.
Kofi likes peace.
You are not listening to the
Peace.
instruction. You are not listening to the
Kofi
instruction.
likes peace.
You are not listening.
Likes peace.
Kofi likes peace.
Listen to what she's saying. Muntie.
I said,
Kofi is a man.
when you mute, listen, I said, every man likes peace. I'm giving an instruction, so listen. The preamble is, every man likes peace, okay? I want the ladies to give me the antecedent, whilst the gentlemen will give me the consequent of this statement. So ladies first. Every man likes peace. Let's use Kofi. Antecedent will be what?
Kofi is a man. Kofi is a man.
Very good. Then the gentleman, the consequent will be what?
Therefore,
Kofi likes peace.
Kofi likes.
Kofi likes
Therefore, Kofi likes.
We haven't said
Kofi
any
likes.
therefore. Very good. So you are
Therefore,
following,
Kofi likes.
and I like that. Keep quiet for a minute. Thank you very much. Now listen, I have not said therefore anything because we have not started reasoning. I'm just helping you to open it out. They give you the coconut. I'm showing you how you can cut it to open the coconut before you use it for anything. So I'm just showing you how to open out a universal to clearly identify antecedent and consequent. That's all. We haven't started reasoning with it yet. Okay, so no therefore, no if anything. Now, if you know your antecedent and your consequent, then you can now understand why I said the first example here. I like how you all are cooperating. Means you've done some reading and it's good. So this first example, all students write exams. Amma is a student. I said this way of reasoning, which we have seen earlier before we went to the second one, this first valid deduction has a different name than this one, which is also valid. They are all valid, but different names, okay? This one. The number 4 here, which we have labeled as deductive, is also a valid deduction. But the type of validity here is not the same as the one that is up there at this place that we are going to here. Okay, so I want you to understand that validity comes in what? Types. And your textbook gave you 4 valid patterns that you should study, which your friend did a good job at helping us know their names. If you have just looked at the outline, you'll see them. Okay. Now, this one, after saying all students write exams, what the person did next was to affirm the antecedent. Look on your screen. Keep quiet, please. I'll allow you to talk when it is possible. All students write exams. This is the universal. After that, what did we do? We said Amma is a student. Remember, if we open this out, it will be what? If X is a student, then S writes exam. And then we'll know that the antecedent is what? X is a student. Then the consequent is X writes exams. So right after the universal, what did the speaker do next? The speaker affirmed the antecedent. The speaker said Amma is a student antecedent. It is this place that names the reasoning pattern I'm going to give you the Latin name for, okay? The reason why we call such reasoning affirming the antecedent reasoning is because right after the universal, what did we do next? We affirmed the antecedent. And then we concluded by affirming the consequent. The name of this reasoning pattern is affirming the antecedent. Its Latin expression is modus ponens. Modus ponens. You already saw it at slide number 1 to see. I projected it again when we were looking at the outline. See on your screen now. Modus ponens, like Paul. The second one we see Right after that one is called modus tollens, like Timothy. So I call one Paul and the other Timothy. They are all modus. But sometimes the distance doesn't help. And for easy referencing, when you say modus Paul, then it helps the student. Modus ponens, okay? Its other name so far, the one we have looked at so far, is what? Affirming the antecedent. You affirm the antecedent. You bring the antecedent just as it was given to you. First, after the general statement, the next thing you bring is what? The antecedent. That is what makes it modus ponens. On your screen now. That's why it is also called affirming the antecedent. Now, if you don't do what we are saying, and you rather say all students write exams, listen attentively. Then your next premise, you say Amma writes exams. So you want to conclude that so she is a student, that will not be valid. I want to repeat that. You say all students write exams, look on the screen. The next premise, instead of saying Amma is a student, you say Amma writes exams. So we should conclude that therefore she is a student. That is not valid. Because if I say all students write exams, it doesn't mean that all who write exams are students. No, one is a big set. I already told you that. All students are inside the set of all who write exams. Okay? But inside the set of those who write exams could be other members who are not students. If I said all Ghanaians like pineapple, the big set will be the set of those who like pineapples. Inside that, the subset will be what? Ghanaians. But there could be Togolese also inside, and there could be Dutch, and there could be, you see, so there could be different subsets within the big set of those who like pineapples. That is why you cannot say that, look on your screen now, I'm showing you the fallacy that tries to do modus ponens. That's what I'm showing you, but I won't tell you yet. When you know it, I tell you that's the name, and then it sticks better. Very technical, but if you know the original, you are able to test the spirit and know that this is fake. The reason why we struggle to know a genuine spirit is because we don't know the genuine one, so you can't tell the counterfeit. If you don't know the dollar note or the CD note, whichever is dear to your hand, then when someone gives you a counterfeit, they can trick you easily. But if you know the original very well, then when someone tries to play, you know, even some can even see it when you are counting. They tell you, Charlie, I'm not taking that money. Can you go and bring us another set? Others too, they need the counting machine. Some counting machines can see fake from original. My point is, know the original modus ponens, so that when I'm showing you now the deviation, the one that is trying to do modus ponens but does it wrongly, you don't struggle. And so that it is not a time to play. Look on your screen respectfully, okay? All students write exams. That was the first premise. If it is the valid modus ponens you are doing, after all students write exams, what you will say next for that modus ponens valid pattern is to say, Amma is a student. Then you conclude, oh, so she writes exam. That will be valid. It's modus ponens, and it is also called affirming the antecedent. And I hope you got that. Now, the fallacy, the error, the incorrect way of doing modus ponens, which is so like modus ponens that it has also gotten a new name, a name for itself, I should say. Osena Mayamanidin. It looks like it so much, it imitates it so much that it has a name. It's one of the former fallacies, the deductive fallacies. What is the name? Instead of affirming antecedent, that one rather affirms the consequent. It's a fallacy. Please don't say the fallacy of modus ponens. There is nothing like that. That fallacy is called fallacy of affirming the consequent. It doesn't affirm the antecedent, it rather affirms the consequent. That is its name. If you write fallacy of modus ponens, it is wrong. Modus ponens is not a fallacy. It is valid. Its fallacy, or the one trying to do modus ponens that doesn't do it well, is called affirming the consequent. That is its name. All right. So how is that fallacy done? The error. The person will say all students write exams. then the next premise will go and say, Amma writes exams. So we should conclude by force that therefore she's a student. And if you looked in your mind at the picture I've given you of what? A Venn diagram, that all students write exams means all students are a subset. The set of all students is inside the bigger rectangular set of what? All those who write exam. Then it is possible for someone to write exam inside the rectangle, but not in the circle. That is why you cannot say, Amma writes exam, so we should conclude by force that she is a student. That would be invalid, logically speaking. Okay? So that fallacy is what we call what? The fallacy of affirming the consequent. So I'll run way ahead and go and show you a table that captures the two to help you understand it, and we'll come back quickly. See on your screen now. Just modus ponens is what we have done. Don't stress yourself. Look at the top. Modus ponens. Someone read this for me. Let me take quickly. Priscilla, no, Adam Martin. Adam, quickly. Let Adam read, please. I beg you. Adam, read quickly. Adam. Adam Martin. Oh dear. Oh dear, Adam. Okay, the person who wants to read, please read quickly.
Compares.
Modus ponens. Affirming the antecedent.
Yes, read that.
Heavy smokers have lung issues. Kofi is a heavy smoker, so he has lung issues.
That one is valid. It is affirming the antecedent. Why? Look at heavy smokers have lung issues. The next premise says Kofi is a heavy smoker. That means Kofi is inside the circle. That circle is already in the big box, the big square. And Kofi is a heavy smoker means Kofi is inside the circle, which is already inside the big box. Then it will follow that. Then he's already inside the big box of those who have lung issues. That's why this is valid. Look at the fallacy, the incorrect form. Sister, read.
Heavy smokers have lung issues. Kofi has lung issues, so he is a heavy smoker.
The second one is saying Kofi has lung issues. It is affirming the consequent. So we should accept that Kofi is a heavy smoker. But that doesn't necessarily follow. Because when we say heavy smokers have lung issues, it doesn't prevent, see, heavy smokers have lung issues. Means heavy smokers are inside, the set of heavy smokers are inside the set of those who have lung issues. But inside that set of those who have lung issues, we can have sickle cell patients also. They are there. They don't smoke, but they have lung issues. That's the triangle. Will be inside the big set. We can have those who have gotten broken heart or something. Different antecedent conditions can lead to the consequent of having what? Lung issues. That is why you can't say from a premise that started by saying heavy smokers have lung issues. Then your next premise says Kofi has lung issues. That is an affirmation of the consequent. Then you want to conclude, therefore, that he's a heavy smoker. Not necessarily. So this reasoning is not valid. Which incorrect pattern is that it is affirming the consequent. And I hope you got that. I've spent so much time on it, repeated it over and over and over again, because it's a foundation. When you get that, the other ones will be built on it quickly. You will see it. So this is a valid deduction called modus ponens. And I showed you its incorrect form called the fallacy that affirms the consequent. It means the correct one affirms the antecedent. If you got that, then we can run quickly up and go and see what is happening with the second valid form that I showed you earlier, which is what? The one that says mangoes are blah, blah, blah. Some people never saw any of these slides, which when you scroll it, they say, hey, no more slides anymore. They have never opened anything. If you didn't open it before coming, you are now doing two in one things. You are now seeing the content and you are trying to grasp what the woman is saying. And in fact, 3 in 1, and at the same time, trying to save something in your memory. That's not easy. But if you have read, gone through it, the main lines you have captured, it's just the difficulties you have with understanding that we are helping you fill in the gaps. You have stuff in your memory. You are familiar with the content a little, You are becoming better familiar at it, and you are interconnecting it, and that helps for understanding. Then you can now produce your own. That's the difference. Now, deductive argument, the second one that I said is different from what we saw earlier that we called modus ponens, which affirms antecedent. This one doesn't affirm antecedent. Let me highlight a little. What does it do? It rather, look at it, all mangoes are fruits. Then the second premise, we said X is not, see, negation of what was originally given. X is not a fruit. That means I am negating or denying the consequent. Right after the inverser, that's what I do. I negate or deny the consequent. So all mangoes are fruit. My pen, which is X, any variable at all, is not a fruit. Therefore, I can conclude that it is not a mango. That is also valid. This is also valid. So let's see why. I say it again. All women are cheats. Then the next premise says X is not even a cheat. Remember the Venn diagram picture I've given you. X is not even a cheat. Then it will mean that X is not a mango. By my reasoning pattern, because I gave you a first premise. It says all the A's, look at them, all these mangoes are inside the set of fruit. The set of mangoes are inside what? Or is inside the set of fruits. The next premise says, my pen is not even inside the set of fruit. Picture it. So the pen is outside of the big rectangle. How then would you conclude that it is inside the set of mangoes? Remember, the mangoes are themselves inside the rectangle. That is why this is also valid. So if I start by saying all mangoes are fruits, and then the next premise, I negate the consequent, which is what I say my pen is not a fruit, then it will lead to a negation of the antecedent validly. The conclusion is then it is not a mango. That is also valid. Now, give me someone form a valid deduction by modus tollens from this given premise. I'm going to give you that. So get ready. I'll give you a premise, then you will develop it into a modus tollens. We have finished ponens. We did ponens. Planned. We have moved to tollens, which is also valid, but has a different pattern. Okay. Let's start from mammals feed their young. Okay. Let's use what's goat? Let's use goat. Goat. So mammals feed their young. I want us to develop a modus tollens valid argument because we are still building on the understanding. We can't do uniform answers. I want one of you to put up your hand if you want to respond. Okay. So mammals feed their young. I don't want IDs. It's not safe. Write your name, please, so I can call you. Okay, so I can call Audrey now. Mammals feed their young. We are doing tollens. We are using goat. Go ahead.
Goats feed their young.
Therefore,
goats are mammals.
Where is the not? We haven't negated anything. Because we want to bring the consequent first, it comes negated. Look at our screen very well. You turn it, ubutuno, turn it upside down. So look at our pattern. All mangoes are fruit. My pen is not a fruit. Therefore, it is not a mango. So if you want to bring the second one first to create a valid argument, when I say the second one, I mean the consequent first, then you have to bring it what? Negated. Then the antecedent will also be negated in your conclusion. That's the pattern. Okay. So give it another.
So to be goats do not feed their young. So goat is not a mammal.
Very good. That will be valid. By which pattern is that, Audrey?
Deductive argument.
Oh, all of them are deductive argument. Which of the deductive arguments are we doing now? That's the question.
Affirming the tollens.
So it's called what? What's the name? Modus what?
Modus tollens.
Yes, you have to say it how. Say it how. Okay. Thank you very much. So what we just did is modus tollens valid argument pattern. I just gave a universal. That can be an exam question. develop the given statement below into a modus tollens valid argument. You see, then I give you, let's say, all birds fly. I want Nana Akwesi to do that one for me. I still want another modus tollens from the premise what all birds fly. Nana, quickly, please. Okay, Nana Akwesi. If Nana Akwesi has a difficulty, then I can take Savior Mayfia Yeboah. Savior.
Okay.
All birds fly. Yes.
All birds fly.
Yes.
Fish is not a bird. So fish does
Fish
not
is,
fly.
fish is.
It is not a bird.
Fish is.
Not a bird.
When you say fish is not a bird, what have you done?
A fish is not a bird.
We are doing tollens. Which one comes first? Is it antecedent or consequent?
Consequent, please.
So say it well. All birds fly.
All birds fly. So fishes. All birds fly. Fish does not fly. Fish is not a bird.
Very good. That is better. You see that? Oh, who is this?
Yes,
my lady. So that is it. You can't negate the antecedent. So our sister's negation of the antecedent will show us the fallacy that tries to do modus tollens. When you are trying to do tollens and you don't do it well, like my lady earlier did, it will commit a fallacy called the fallacy of negating the antecedent. You don't negate the antecedent, okay? So the correct way, she corrected herself, is this. And that's why I'm asking you to do it. Look on the screen again, we'll do it together. This is modus tollens, correctly done here. All mangoes are fruit. So in our scenario, it will be all birds fly. Antecedent is what? X is a bird. Consequent is X flies. So all birds fly. The next premise should say, a goat does not fly. Because we want the flying to come, because it is the consequent. The flying should come right after the main premise, okay? So all birds fly. A goat does not fly. Therefore, a goat is not a bird. If you don't want anyway, you can use X or Y. So you can say all birds fly. X does not fly. So X is not a bird. That will be valid by modus tollens. Why? Because you negated the consequent first in the premises. Then you concluded with a negation of the antecedent. This is a conclusion, so it doesn't matter. What you do with the premises will reveal the conclusion. That's why it's a deductive logic, a deductive pattern or reasoning. Okay, so all mangoes are fruits because it is modus tollens validity. Look at how it looks like. Again, my pen is not a fruit. A negation of fruit, which is the consequent here, will lead to a negation of what? The antecedent. Very good. So this is modus tollens. Now, if you go and say, so we go quickly to that slide that compares for easy understanding. If you go and say, all heavy smokers, where is it? 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 There it is. So we do tollens now, modus tollens, which is also valid. The correct one says, and quickly we'll get someone to read. You hear it from your friend, it helps you understand it. Let's get, I think we can have Linda Santi to read for us. Linda.
Modus tollens.
Thank you. Go ahead.
Heavy smokers have lung issues.
Yes.
Kofi is a heavy smoker, so he has lung issues.
Very good. That one is valid. We can all see why. So heavy smokers have lung issues. Did you say Kofi does not have lung issues? Yes. It's a negation of the consequence. Kofi does not have lung issues. Remember, this is happening in the premises. Then it will lead to oh, so he is not a heavy smoker. The negation is introduced there to help you. Now that one is valid. Its name, another name for modus tollens is what? Denying the consequent. How do you know the name at the second premise? That's what is naming it. Just like here. The second premise here, that names affirming the antecedent. Here we are denying the consequent. That is valid. So if you have any denying to do, deny the consequent in the premises. Okay, it will lead to a denial of the antecedent also, and that will be valid.
Okay.
You do not deny the antecedent. If you do that in your premises, your conclusion will not follow necessarily. We saw that earlier. Now, that is what is happening here, denying the antecedent. The person says heavy smokers have lung issues. Kofi is not a heavy smoker, so we should conclude, therefore, that he does not have lung issues. That doesn't follow. Kofi may be outside of the circle, which is inside the big rectangle. See? Kofi may be outside of that circle, so he's not a heavy smoker. But he may still have lung issues because he's still inside the set of those who have lung issues. What I told you earlier. Because it might be as a result of something else, not heavy smoking, not as a result of heavy smoking, but maybe sickle cell. Okay, so you want to be careful what you are doing in your premises, the evidence you are offering, which you are using to support the claim. This is not valid. It denies the antecedent, second premise. You shouldn't deny the antecedent. If you want to deny to make a valid deduction, then after the main premise, deny the consequent, it will lead to a denial of the antecedent. Very good. Any questions? Let's see again. There's a hand up. So I see 10 hands up, I think, to respond to queries earlier. If you have a question, unmute and ask from the 9 of you quickly. We want to wrap up. Okay. So I don't think there is a question. Then I will quickly walk you through. Go ahead, sir. That's what I said.
Okay, please.
We will see Emilia. Abna, hold on for a minute. Let's take the gentleman. Go ahead, sir. Please go ahead.
Yes, madam.
Madam, okay.
Let us hear Chris. We'll take the other one later. Go ahead with it. Oh, please tell your friends to be quiet. I beg you. Chris, go ahead.
Madam, please. I was having problem with the network, so I didn't hear the modus ponens and the
It's being
tollens.
recorded. I beg you. It's being recorded. Try and have a good network as much as possible. Okay. There are 300 plus students now. So that's why we are recording. We'll send you the recording. Just play it back. Okay. Very
okay,
good.
madam. Thank you.
Thank you, too, sir. Let me take the lady quickly, my dear. Go ahead.
Please, it's not a question.
Go ahead. Go ahead. Don't worry. Emilia.
Madam, please, I
didn't hear you.
I'm confused with the modus tollens.
Yeah. You're confused with the what? Modus which one?
Tollens.
You have issues with me, if you keep doing this. I'm trying to hear my sister. Eh? Oh. Which part are you confused with, Auntie?
Madam, is the modus tollens.
What are you confused about for that one?
Madam,
do you understand the ponens?
No, madam.
And so it's a different sickness. So you practice more. That is it. Did you see the slides before coming?
Yes, please.
What did you see in the slides? Why is modus ponens a deductive argument? Emilia.
Madam.
Why is it deductive? Deductive. Why do we say modus ponens pattern of reasoning is deductive? Do you understand that one?
Yes, please.
So explain. Explain that to me. So I'll take it from there to help you. Oh. Explain why modus ponens is deductive. Okay. If you explain that one, I can help you see the types of valid deductions. Yeah. Go ahead. Go ahead.
It is deductive because the conclusions may necessarily true.
That is exactly not the case. In other words, you've said some, which is fine, but not exactly the case. Okay. So when we finish the class, this class that we are having, it is being recorded. Everything I've said will be available to you again. Then you play it back and watch the illustrations I give for the explanations. You see, if it is still not too clear, listen, don't worry. If it is still not too clear, do you have the tutorial links, my sister? Emilia, do you have the tutorial links? Oh, you have to respond so I can help you. I can't hear you. Do you know the links for tutorials, please? Hey. Are you there? Emilia, are you there?
No, please.
You don't have the links for tutorials. It means you haven't attended
Hello,
any
madam.
tutorial. Do you know that it means you
Yes,
haven't
please.
attended any tutorial? Why? It is at the resource too.
Yes, madam.
Because tutorial will take questions and answer. Your TAs will assist you specific questions, one after the other. They are not lecturing. You see that? They are there to take your questions. So the specific thing you don't understand, when you attend that tutorial, all the links are there. So you don't have any excuse that maybe group 10 tutorial time clashes with so and so. All the 14 or so links are accessible to you every week, 14 sessions. If that particular tutor style of teaching is not helping you, you can attend the other one, attend the other, and attend the other. You see, we want you to do that because it is technical, okay? And people still make their A's, plenty A's. So we don't want you to trail behind. So can you use those channels too and see if they can play it, it can help you. If it still doesn't work, come to my office during office hours, I'll help you. Or send me an email. Because the concern you have is not with the particular topic. I think that you haven't engaged the content close enough, but it is fine. You still have time to do that. Okay, so work it that way and let's see. Because what we have discussed even today about deduction and induction is not too clear yet for you. So if we build on it, if the foundation is weak, whatever we are adding won't make sense, sincerely. Okay, so let's work it that way. And all those that I asked to do that, when they go and they do their groundwork and they come, then it's easy. I think the understanding comes a little for us. Okay, so we'll work it out that way. Okay, what is the other question? If it is still a question, please put up your hand. I'll wrap up nicely for us. I have to enter the next class. If it's a question, please unmute and ask, like I always say, because the 10 hands are drop. Yes, dear.
Please, I wanted to ask a question.
Go ahead.
The modus tollens, should always be the modus tollens? Should always be the negation from?
That is what the pattern says. So if you have a universal, negate the consequent first, and then conclude by negating the antecedent. Negate means if the original is positive. Yes. Negate means if the original is positive, you turn it upside down, you negate the positive statement there, it becomes negative. You see that? Then you now conclude by negating the antecedent. If the original is negative, then nege will become what? Po. So the negation of a negation will become positive. Then the antecedent also becomes negative. Okay, so we'll practice more. Emilia, so you're going to practice more to help you. Just look at the patterns, the way you slide to unlock your phone. If you use a certain password that you slide before you unlock it. If you slide a Z, before you can unlock your phone, and someone takes your phone, wants to unlock it, and slides W, it will never open because of how you have keyed in your password. It has to go a certain way. So it moves from here to here, then down, and then that is what will unlock the phone. The patterns we are studying now, the valid patterns, are like that. They are like passwords. You cannot have it your own way, okay? So it tells you I'll try and go over again if you are looking on your screen. So for modus ponens pattern, it says if you have antecedent, then consequent. Heavy smokers have lung issues. Okay? Kofi is a heavy smoker. If you affirm the antecedent right after the general statement, then it will lead to an affirmation of the consequent validly. That will be valid. It is called modus ponens, which is what? Affirming the antecedent. Now, if you want to do another kind of validity, say this is my phone, I used M to lock it, but another phone, I've used W to lock it. M and W are not the same. So for the W, now think of it that way. So for modus tollens, the pattern is this. Heavy smokers have lung issues. Look, they start the same. They're all modus. But look at the second premise for modus tollens. It says, Kofi does not have lung issues. Introduce a not, a negation, and then bring the consequent first. That is modus tollens. Then you can now conclude by introducing a not into the antecedent. When you do that, it will also be valid. But that validity is not this one. Think of this maybe as M on your phone to open it, whilst modus tollens is W on the phone. They unlock differently, but they are both valid passwords. Okay. Now, in each case, if you are trying to do ponens and you do it wrongly, you create the fallacy that affirms the consequent. And I showed you, it imitates it so much that it has also gotten itself a name. The same is happening to the fallacy that denies the antecedent. Instead of denying the consequent to form modus tollens, it rather denies the antecedent. That's what we have done. Those two valid patterns and their formal fallacies. So in all, we have done 4. Now, we want to sum up so that you can have a concrete thought for the day. Let's go to our slides from beginning. What have we done? You know the types of argument. You know how to correctly distinguish a valid argument from a deductive argument from an inductive one. You know that. You know how to understand arguments, the parts, and then the types. Now, we have learned the names for 4 valid forms. Your friend told you in the slide. Just the names for 4 of them. Modus ponens, modus tollens, hypothetical syllogism, and disjunctive syllogism. These are their names. But we have studied the pattern itself, the 4 of them. We have studied the patterns of only 2 so far, and their fallacies. The 2 we have studied are what? Modus ponens and modus tollens. We said modus ponens affirms the antecedent, whilst tollens denies the consequent. Both of them are valid, just like the other 2 that I expect you will learn ahead and come for understanding. Okay, they are valid. We established that validity is not necessarily truth. So the fact that an argument is valid doesn't mean you are saying it is actually true. The little I will top up with, and then we sign off, is this. Where you have an argument which is valid, it means it's either modus ponens, tollens, disjunctive syllogism, or whatever. It's valid. And all the premises are also true, actually speaking. Then we'll call that argument what? Sound. Sound. A sound argument is a higher quality than validity. Okay? The argument is valid, maybe by modus ponens or tollens. And then also, in addition to being valid, you test the premises in everyday life observation. The premises are actually true. Then it means this argument is not just valid, but even it goes beyond validity. It is sound. So the example I gave on all birds fly. A dove is a bird. Therefore, a dove flies. We all saw that That kind of reasoning. All birds fly. A dove is a bird, so it flies. That is valid by modus ponens. We have learned that. Now, the premises are also true. Birds fly. And we know that a dove, the one we call a dove, is a bird and it flies. So this argument is not only valid, but it is what? Sound. So soundness only means, first of all, the argument is valid. Then its premises are also what? Actually true out there. You need to add that to what you know today. Then the little tiny bit left now would be what? Why we call them syllogisms. And you would have seen all that already. I just want to say it so that you see that you can be examined on those. Okay. So it's in the slide, but sometimes students don't look at it. So why do we call them syllogisms? Okay, all the four of them are syllogisms. Why do we call them a syllogism? Look, it was just a note I put there. A syllogism simply refers to a deductive argument, which has what? Two premises and a conclusion. I could have been silent on this because it is stated there without any confusion. Look at it. It is a deductive argument with two premises and one conclusion. If you have a deductive argument that has two premises and a conclusion connected in a certain way, they are related in a certain way, like what we've seen so far, we call them syllogism. So all the valid forms we will study are syllogisms, all the four of them. Modus ponens, modus tollens, hypothetical syllogism, and disjunctive syllogism are all what? Syllogisms. If you went home with these nuggets, you are more than okay for the unit. We'll just top up with hypothetical syllogism pattern, which you would have seen already by now, and disjunctive syllogism pattern. I hope to also prompt you about how you interpret universal negations. All the ones we've worked with so far are universal affirmative statement. All these are that. All these are that. These are easier, straightforward. When we give you universal negation, no man is perfect. None is righteous. None is this. Those kind of universal statements that are negative. And then sometimes it's a little tricky determining your antecedent and your consequent, but we'll take time to do that also, God willing, next week on schedule. Okay, any questions? So you see that we have just about 4 or so slides to go, then we are done, but we'll go through them topic by topic again. Remember why we say deduction is topic neutral. I've said all that for you, the 4 types, particular versus general order. Some of the content here for particular and general will be useful when we go ahead in your unit 7 also. Any questions? See the inverse affirmative and negative, they are all here. You don't have to hear it from me. If you do that, you will struggle. See, if you are reading ahead, how to interpret universal negation, see, they are all here. See, if I say no man is perfect, it just means if X is a man, then X is not perfect. That helps you to know your antecedent. They are all here. To learn the content for yourself, and you will do fine. I want to take 1 or 2 questions if there are any, then we can go. Naki Owusu, is there a question? Please ask if it is a question. Zuta Delight, is there a question? Okay. Chris, is there a question? Mark, Mabai, go ahead. If it's a question, please. Then Alex Enjoyer. Okay, Alex dropped. Let's see. Chris, your hand is up. Is there a question, please? Naki, is there a question? Ruhaina, quickly, please. Our time is up. Okay. Francisca Kwabiga. Okay, it's not a question. Isifu Sadat, is there a question? I think that we are all done. Okay, so we can continue, God willing, next week. Look out for notice on your interim assessment. It's from August 13th, I think, but the notice will come out so you know the specific day and time, because there will be days and times to stretch over, I think, 4 days or so because of your numbers. Then you go and write and you do fine. Thank you very much. Have a wonderful week and all the best.